Headline: JayzTwoCents, world's most beloved YouTuber, talks about graphics cards and CPUs at the end of 2019 versus what he said at the middle of 2019 based on hypothetical stuff only versus now having actual hands-on experience. Headline: print.
Is that the intro?
I said print.
Looking for a new PC or PC hardware? Then today's sponsor, Micro Center, is guaranteed to have what you need. Micro Center's huge selection of hardware and devices along with their industry-leading prices mean you get more for your money this holiday season. With Build Your Own, Micro Center carries the latest in PC tech from all major brands, while passionate, knowledgeable sales staff are available to assist you with your next build. Not comfortable building it yourself? Then certified in-store technicians can build it for you in as little as the same day. To see all that Micro Center has to offer and to find the store closest to you, click the sponsor link in the description below.
All year long, I said, wait, don't buy or build a computer yet, just wait. Well, if you listen to me, then congratulations, you're of the crowd that listened to me. Because everything's out now. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about whether or not it was worth waiting. Did you get what you were hoping you would get from these companies? Some of the companies may have given you more than you wanted and not exactly what you asked for. And some of these companies might be giving you more than you wanted, but not quite everything you want yet. We just got done reviewing basically the last product launch of the year. Happens to be the 1650 Super and the 1650, which is not technically new-ish, versus the brand new 5500 XT 4GB and 8GB. We've seen all the AMD CPUs, they're all out now. But I specifically made a video a few months back that was like, don't buy or build your computer yet, because we needed this stuff to come out. Because what happens when this stuff comes out is a little bit of a pricing shift. And not only that, you could have buyer's remorse. If you say went out and bought yourself a 2700 and then suddenly realize like, oh crap, I could have gotten myself like a 3600 or a 3800 and gotten better performance for roughly the same price, or a 2700 at much cheaper than what you bought it for. So these are the reasons why I make this content, because you gotta understand, we're under NDA. We can't talk about stuff before we're allowed to talk about it. And so if I put out a video, little insider tip here, insider trading tip. I'm gonna go to prison like Martha Stewart and do it in style. If I put out a video that says, wait, I'm doing it for a reason. I am literally trying to save you money or from a bad decision. If I say, don't buy anything right now, wait a little bit, I can't possibly make it any more clear that I'm telling you an upset is coming. And that's what's exactly happened here. So Ryzen is out, which really only kind of isn't interesting to the people that were considering buying like the X299 from Intel or X399 Threadripper stuff, which it's funny because this is a whole new platform now. So I guess that kind of sucked. See, no, I guess that kind of proves my point. Let's just say you were like, all right, I'm gonna buy a Ryzen Threadripper 2950 or whatever, it replaced the 1950, right? You're like, okay, cool. I've got upgrade path. So I've got my board and everything and now I can just plop in a new one. No, unfortunately not, because this is a whole different socket. Even though it looks the same, the pinout's entirely different. So unfortunately, whereas AMD promised you AM4 Plus, like future proofing to like 2020 or something like that, or 2022, they never promised that with Threadripper. And so for Threadripper 3rd gen to work, they had to do some repurposing of pins and kind of rearrange the way that the actual traces work, which means you are not forward compatible. If you have a Threadripper X399, you do not have forward compatibility with what's here. So had you waited, then you'd be able to do this. So now in order to take advantage of the new Threadripper, you've got to buy a new motherboard. But that aside, AM4 Plus X470 is compatible with the new 3000 series Ryzen stuff, which is technically Ryzen 2 3000 series, so it's kind of confusing there. But the graphics cards are all out now, and since I made my recent video about whether or not you should wait, I think NVIDIA launched another like 3 super cards nobody asked for. One of them sitting over there. But now we've got our entry-level stuff from AMD. So if you haven't watched this video yet regarding the review of these cards, the 4GB and the 8GB, then you need to go and watch that video now, because that sort of shows you that there is some really good cutthroat competition taking place in the price point most people seem to be shopping, which is around the $200 price point for the graphics cards. Now, it's a perfect time to buy and build your computer, not only just right now in December of 2019 because Christmas sales and Black Friday is over, but there were some decent Black Friday sales, nothing amazing to write home about. SSDs are cheaper than they've ever been. You can still get yourself a SATA SSD, like a 1 terabyte SATA SSD for like $200. Okay, maybe even less than that. I think it's actually like $140. And you can get a 2 terabyte now for like the $200 range. You can get a 500 gigabyte for like 70 or no, actually less than that, $60, because I just bought Phil a 500 gigabyte M.2 NVMe SSD, a Samsung 970 for $70 to use as a scratch disk for when he does his editing and stuff. The 3950 is out, which has just caused all sorts of upset at the top end of the mainstream desktop computing for not only gaming, but also for, it's kind of a really good stopgap CPU between not needing necessarily the workload or the tasks that you would use Threadripper for, or even X299 or the Extreme stuff from Intel, but you want to do live streaming and you want to play around with virtual machines, or you want to play around with anything that needs multi-threading, or you just like to watch your blah, 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 blah while you're playing a game one-handed. That was really inappropriate. But a 3950X at $750, if that's too much, you can get 8-core, 16-thread CPUs from AMD now around the $300 mark. And a couple of years ago, that is something that was not even possible unless you went up to the Intel Extreme platform and were willing to pay $1,000 for like a 5980XE. Or I don't even think they were called XE back then. But unless you were gonna pay for the 80 series of any of the Intel Extreme stuff, you were never gonna get that kind of core count. But what's also happened here is the competition taking place on the CPU side has definitely driven prices downward, even for Intel. Intel came out with the Core i6, which...
i6? The 6 core!
6! Anyway, they came out with the KS, which is just a binned and overclocked version of the K, but even then it drove the price of the K down slightly. So although it might not necessarily be the most competitive out there in terms of price or the most compelling buy, you have options now. And that's what makes right now the perfect time to buy. RAM is cheap. RAM is extremely cheap. You could buy 16 gigs now for the same price we were only able to buy 8 gigs for exactly a year to a year and a half ago. You now have double the core count for around the same price you would get an i5 for just a couple of years ago. Motherboard prices, that's something that I think is kind of unexpected in that it's gone up a bit in price. As AMD has become more popular, a lot of the manufacturers, they all have their top tier AMD offerings now. You can spend $700, $800 on a motherboard if you want, or you can spend a modest $100 to $150 and go with like an X470 and still have all the features of 3rd gen Ryzen with the exception of PCIe Gen 4 for really fast storage. Now is the time to buy. So what we want to do is we want to put together a few build guides for different price points. A lot of the other folks in my genre here, like Paul and Cod and all them, they will do like, here's a $600 guide, here's a $1,000 guide. And they won't necessarily build the systems, but they'll kind of put out a parts list and they'll show you theoretically how they perform and stuff. So if you want to see us do something like that, it would be very helpful if you guys commented down below in what you think the appropriate price ranges are. I've seen a lot of people say that, Jay, do a brand new build at $300. I wish that was possible. That's called an Xbox, a used one. Unfortunately, it's not gonna happen. But when it comes to waiting, now is the time to buy because nothing new is truly coming out. Computex in 2019, we're going backwards. Computex 2020 is when we'll probably see some of the newer stuff coming out from Intel. Intel has to respond. They have no choice. There's even a whole nother topic that Phil kind of wants to dive into at some point about whether or not Intel truly even cares about any of this crap for gamers, because all of their money comes from enterprise solutions, server, people that are buying $75,000 workstations and stuff for the professional space, and that's where they make their money, not gamers, and that Intel's turned their back on gamers, and Phil thinks that Intel should die, and no, Phil doesn't think that, but it's one of those things where Intel might honestly just not truly care about you anymore, and it's kind of sad. And they'll tell you that they do, because they can't tell you that they don't. But the way they show you that they care about you is they either really slash prices or start giving you some competitive CPUs that are happening versus what AMD is currently offering you right now. But regarding graphics cards though, it's kind of interesting because when we had our meeting with AMD earlier this year around E3, when they were kind of announcing and talking about the 5700 and Navi and all that sort of stuff, or the RDNA architecture, that it was going to be a lot like Ryzen, where it was going to take some time to kind of mature, but when it did, it was going to bring the competition to NVIDIA, and there was going to be great competition happening across the board, the different price points, but it needs time to get there. It's kind of interesting because the 5700 XT definitely caused, I don't want to say caused, but definitely aided in the arrival of the 2070 Super, which is kind of funny because the 2070 disappeared entirely because of the 5700 XT, but now it's back because NVIDIA wants to keep an extremely crowded product stack, causing confusion for everybody involved. The idea is to confuse them into buying, I don't know, something like that. But we're seeing the same thing with the 5500, where it's definitely causing disruption in that price point. Now we just need AMD to launch the 5900 version or whatever that's supposed to compete with like the 2080s. I don't think they're going to be able to compete with like a 2080 Ti-esque card for at least a couple more years. But the timing's right though. The cards that matter for the buyers that are truly buying in like where the bulk range is of people spending their money is the 5500, the 5700, the 2060, the 2070 being the top end, and then most people probably shopping more so around the 1660 Ti, $250 card, $300 card range, which is where the competition truly is right now. You've got competition in the CPU space happening there, you've got competition in the GPU space. This is the best time probably, as long as I've been doing YouTube now, which is going on 8 years, that this is the best PC gaming and building has been. There has not been this level of competition since I've been doing YouTube anyway, which makes it all very, very exciting. So what are you waiting for? Go out and buy stuff now. Build a computer now. You already have a computer? I don't care. Build another one now.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I didn't need that computer, but I wanted it, so I built it. Speaking of which, you need to do something else with Skunkworks now. I feel like we're using that case for something. I like building computers, what can I say? I like building computers. I like building boats, computer boats. All right, guys, anyway, just a little bit of a PSA talking standing video, I guess, bringing you some...
Public standing video?
No, I've seen a lot, I've gotten a lot of messages from people saying, Jay, is now the time? You said it wasn't the time a while ago, is now the time? Yes.